Millender, once again, welcome to the program. When we were talking last week, we were mentioning about education. You was mentioning about it in New York, where you was raised at. Less than 1% of the blacks there went to college, and you begin to also make a reference to the standards and everything that we felt was too rigid at that point in time. All those things have been lowered. We have an opportunity to participate now. We neglect to do those kinds of things, and as a result of that, it seems in a very real way, we realize there's enemies without, but it's also the greater enemy here seems to be the enemy within. And we have to find ways to ignite it because we have so much to offer to this country. And like you said, that's what nobody's saying because we're spending so much quality time looking across the table, blaming other people. Now, you didn't say all of this. I'm saying all of this. This is my summarization of all that you said in terms of in a very real way because sacrifices have been made like leaders like yourself in this community, and we seem to be squandering that opportunity in a very real way.
Yeah. Well, I think that it's important that everybody does what he's capable of doing. We don't all need to be elected officials.
Absolutely.
We don't all need to be in show business or that kind of thing. But there's something that each of us can do, and each of us has a responsibility to do. The world is not going to get better by itself. We have to make things happen, and that means getting involved. I think that it's urgent that we make a difference in our community. It's urgent that we understand that we, and in this case I'm speaking as black people, that we have something that the community needs and needs to know.
Yeah. And
we have to share that. On the other hand, people have to be receptive to hearing what you have to say and may not always agree with it. And that's,
we can't agree to disagree.
Yeah, but there has to be a common goal to understand each other. There are things that we don't understand about white people and why they feel as they do, and we have to be listening sincerely and wanting to understand. There is a country off the coast. In fact, it's Madagascar.
Yes.
I was going to say off the coast of Africa. They have a very, very multiracial society, but they work at it. They work at getting along and living in harmony. And when they get together, what each person commits to do is to accept the other person's argument. In other words, let's say the issue is affirmative action. I would try to take an honest position where I'm against it. The white person would take the position that he's for it.
From the other person's perspective.
Exactly.
Okay.
But being sincere in it, not
yeah.
just role playing.
Right.
But to try to reach an honest level of understanding. So I'm saying that we've got to have that kind of openness and that kind of high-minded goal.
I look and listen to me. That is a breath of fresh air coming through here. I just felt a breeze come through here. And saying that because most of the time we don't want to have that public conversation in our community. And I'm sure because we can't control the other side at this point.
That's correct.
We can't control it, but that's a conversation that we don't want to have.
That's exactly
there's
correct.
nothing they can tell me.
Exactly
and at this point, you're not saying for him to be black enough for you asking him, you asking you to be the white person at this point, and he be the black person.
Exactly.
Look at it from the other side of the table.
Exactly.
As much as you humanly possibly can from your limited knowledge of the other race.
Exactly. And that's something that we really have to work at. I might mention that I serve as co-chair of the Mayor's Blue Ribbon Committee on Race Relations, although I'm not here in capacity today. But it's one of the things that we have found, and we've been trying to determine where the racism in this community is and to make recommendations for getting rid of it. But there is an absolute denial where most officials are concerned. I mean, less than 5 people that we've talked to in 5 years even admit that there's a racial problem in Augusta. People are very uncomfortable. We invite people to talk to us specifically about where the racism is in this community and how to alleviate it. And they will come to us and talk about everything but race. Okay?
Well, let me ask you this then. That brings up an interesting question. Is it because probably 5% of the things that, out of the 100% now,
Okay.
only 5% is actually a true racial issue, and 95 is not. It just have to be a white person or a black person on the other end of the event that just happened. And 5% of it could actually, out of the 100%, could actually be a true racial issue, but most of the time they get caught up in the 95%. That's not racial, so when you come up and you really get them to sit down and to think and to put some thought into it, because remember, they're reacting on a normal circumstance, but now you ask them to think and to share with us. And now they can't put their hand on anything.
Okay. Now, there is a lot of that. That is to say that there are a lot of things that are cultural. There are a lot of things that are economic. There are a lot of things that don't deal with race. But at the same time, there is a lot of racism.
And I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
And we have to have that conversation.
Can that be on both sides of the table?
It has to be.
Because most times there's a mindset among blacks to say that we can't be racist because we don't have the banks, we don't have this, we don't have that. That to me, that doesn't say to me necessarily racism. I do understand that argument. Like you say, we have to understand other people's argument, even though my people are saying that. But when I talk about a race, I'm talking about a person that has something that's harboring in their heart.
Sure.
Anybody can. It don't take money to do that one.
Sure. Now, obviously, well, not obviously, but I'm not a minister, all right?
Neither am I.
But I do think to have this serious dialogue, you've got to have agape love. That is to say,
Unconditional.
Unconditional. And it has to be put into place in the dialogue. What I'm saying is, you may disagree absolutely with everything that the person is saying, but you've got to love him enough to appreciate where he's coming from and to hear his point of view and to stay with each other throughout the turbulent discussions that you've got to have in order to move beyond it, in that you've got to come to points of enlightenment from both sides. What I'm saying is that love factor, if you don't get mad with the person, if you stay there, and even if that person is hostile, love him through his hostility. It can be transformational. You can overcome his hostility with love.
Now you realize you just you didn't solve it, but you gave you in terms of that, because we know by you making what I perceive to be a profound statements here, I definitely wholeheartedly agree with everything that you just said. But how do we get that into our community in terms of that agape love, that unconditional love? How do we get that? Because most time when you get into agape love, also when you what's in that what's in the mix, that is forgiveness.
Sure.
And when you're talking about forgiveness, you're talking about the one who has been violated has to be willing to forgive the violator.
Exactly.
How do we get there?
Well, we all have a role to play on our job. As managers, as executives in our jobs, I think that we have a responsibility to, first of all, become knowledgeable. You happen to have an interesting book on the table there, A Testament of Hope. It's a collection of Martin Luther King's writings.
Exactly.
If you study Martin Luther King will give you the blueprint.
Yes.
Okay? That book ought to be required reading for everybody. If you can apply the principles in that book, you will come a very long way. I don't mean to suggest that reading a book
Right.
is going to solve our race
I
problems.
understand.
The Bible has not done that. So this book is not going to do that.
But it'll give us a human perspective.
Yes,
It'll
it
take out
will.
all the mysticism
Yes,
out
it
of
will.
it.
Yes,
and,
it
you
will.
know, and just look
Yes,
at
it
the
will.
meat of the subject.
One of the things that the Blue Ribbon Committee is going to leave, and we're trying to wind up our work, we already have videos that deal with how to get people on the job to deal with their racism and in the community. And we're going to leave that for the community so that they can have something very tangible and instructional to use on an ongoing basis years in the future, into the future, deal with these antagonisms and racial problems that we are now confronting.
Okay. Dr. Miller, we're getting ready to take a commercial break. When they
Okay.
come back, I'm going to put a burden on you real heavy
Okay, all right.
and let you give us some analysis of this comment we're going to make. We'll be right back. We're going to take a commercial break.
Do you need your computer repaired or your office network maintained? Call the certified experts at 4T's Computer. They have the largest staff of certified technicians in the CSRA, with hundreds of computers repaired monthly and multiple maintenance contracts with small businesses and organizations. All work is guaranteed, and our motto is do it right the first time. We have the largest selection of refurbished computers in the area. 4T's has 2 locations to serve you, 592 Bobby Jones Expressway across from Home Depot and Windsor Plaza next to the post office on Peach Orchard Road.
For more than 8 years, Easy Ride of Augusta has been providing affordable and convenient service to the Atlanta airport. A fleet of 5 vans and 8 experienced drivers provide you with a reliable and worry-free ride. With 34 trips every week, it's easy to book the trip that fits your schedule. Join the thousands of satisfied customers. Visit EasyRideofAugusta.com or call 706-860-4900 to reserve your next trip to the Atlanta airport.
It's the perfect way to get your morning going on 96.3 Kiss FM with Fats and Cher.
And I've got your Kiss and Tell Entertainment. He's got your classic throwbacks, so much more. Set your clock and join us weekday morning 6 to 10, only on 96.3 Kiss FM or on your computer at 96.3kissfm.com.
Welcome back. You're watching Comcast Community Concern. Once again, my guest is Dr. Mallory Millender, a professor at Payne College. Dr. Millender, when you went to commercial break, I was saying I was going to put a burden on you, and the burden is this. I agree with everything that you just said. Before I do this, I want to make mention of the book. I purchased this book, The Testament of Hope, from Hamilton's bookstore for right at $20. I'm not advocating if you want to go to another store and get it, but that's where I purchased from. And it's one of the best $20 I've ever spent. I've thoroughly enjoyed
I'm sure it
the
is.
insight, being the words itself of Dr. King's writing itself, and to look inside his world, is truly, truly enlightening. The reason why this is important to me on a personal level here, because even as a young man, for all that I've been off the rails per se, but as a young man, God put on my heart something that's never escaped me though, and that is that Augusta, as a community, is very, very important into the scheme of things of getting this nation on the right track. For whatever reason, I believe that. I think you can testify here, you may be a witness to the fact that for many people who left Augusta, and women have done pretty well for themselves.
Absolutely.
Augusta has truly have made an impact around the world in terms of what it's brought to the table. And many people come up in Augusta, I've never seen a town like Augusta. We hear it all the time. So I think that's the very uniqueness of it. We flip it upside down, we can see the uniqueness that I believe in my heart of heart, and I believe in people like your heart as well. So we have to begin to be prepared to make that extra sacrifice, because I think as a community, like as much earlier you spoke about, something to offer. I think as a community we have something to offer to this nation, would ultimately have an impact on the world. That's what drives me. That's what drives me on a personal level. Now, I have not always been there, but it has been on my heart since I was 18 years old. And you're just like Norman, you try to run from the things that you're supposed to be doing. And I think I'm finally trying to get there, and we can get there definitely with people like yourself. But you also was mentioning about the things that you're doing on the Blue Ribbon Committee and things like that, and everything that you've said here about some of the approaches to these things, I think are very worthwhile us getting involved in as a community. But what I want to move away from there just a moment here and talk about a young man, Senator Barack Obama. I don't want to talk about the speech just this moment as much as I want to talk about him as coming on the scene and has electrified this nation and has touched people across this nation of all hue, and especially young people. What do I mean especially young people? A week or so ago, the Augusta Chronicle, Linda Bailey's office, if I'm not mistaken, Board of Elections, she had that the 18 to 30 years old the voting for February the 5th had increased over 500%. From 31 to 35, over 300%. And this is indicative of across this nation. What do we see? We're not talking about the derailment potential of what is on now. What did you witness yourself? I'm not implying that you voted for Barack on the 5th. I'm not implying that you voted for Hillary. I'm not implying that you voted for John McCain. I just want to say, what did you personally, on a personal level, that Barack Obama caused us all this excitement across our nation?
Well, let me say that I started out supporting Hillary Clinton. And I don't think that we have time for me to get into my reasons for that. But basically, I saw Barack Obama as a brilliant neophyte. And
Neophyte for political terms, for people who are with us for the.
A person who is new on the scene without experience in a dangerous world.
Okay, dangerous world.
In a dangerous world. The other thing was, well, and I am getting into reasons, one of them being that I thought that that Bill Clinton had done enough for and with the black community that Hillary shouldn't be abandoned as soon as an exciting black candidate comes along. But I've seen in Barack Obama a transformational figure. He makes people better than they are. I think he will make this nation better than it wants to be. He is just one of those persons who is imbued with those qualities, and he is uniquely qualified to do that. I mean, if you look at his recent speech, nobody could give that perspective. I'm not talking about his eloquence. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about his experience.
The substance of the speech.
The substance of the speech, which God put in his life. Mm-hmm. I mean, he didn't choose to be born of biracial parents or to grow up in Indonesia or all of the combination of things that make him who he is. God did that. But those qualities are qualifications for what this country needs at this time in history. By far, I think Barack Obama is the person to lead us at this time. But let me go to another point. You were talking about people from Augusta and their impact on the world. And right now, I want to talk about Obama's pastor, not his former pastor, his pastor, Otis Moss III. Mm-hmm. Everybody is concentrating on how bad and how hateful Jeremiah Wright is. But we, particularly in Augusta, need to remember Otis Moss III. I think that Otis Moss III was held in as high regard as anybody in this community. Mm-hmm. Now, would he go there and do a 2 or 3 year apprenticeship under a hate monger? I don't believe that.
Right.
If we ever valued who Otis Moss III is and what he stands for, we ought to be willing to listen to him talk about Jeremiah Wright. I listened to tapes of Jeremiah Wright for more than 20 years. My brother started sending me his tapes. I've never seen hate. And so the other thing is that what people interpret as hate in terms of
life experiences?
Yeah. Well, I was speaking specifically of the goddamn America comment.
Yeah.
I don't believe that he hates America. He's talking about...
Nor do they either. Yeah. I don't believe that either.
Yeah. And we have to understand that most of his critics are people who are anyway. Well, those people were not going to vote for Obama anyway.
And they're playing a political
exactly
at the expense of the nation.
Exactly. But the thing that I wanted to say about that is...
You're talking about Otis Moss bringing, going there 3 years, apprenticeship.
Yes, that Jeremiah Wright has been about good. If we go to Farrakhan, white people generally don't understand why black people don't dissociate themselves from Farrakhan even. Nobody has done in black communities what Farrakhan has done with drugs and crime. I mean, the Nation of Islam has done what police could not do. And black people appreciate that. Now, let me make very clear that I'm not anti-Jew. I'm named for a Jew. My middle name is Kimmerling. When I was born, my father's boss wanted him to name me after him, but his name was Charles. My dad told him he had a son named Charles. So he wanted me to have his last name. And I was grown when I went back to meet Mr. Kimmerling. I didn't want to meet Mr. Kimmerling. Here's this white man in Birmingham, Charles Kimmerling, to me, Mr. Charlie. I was not anxious to meet Mr. Charlie. My dad always wanted me to meet him. I finally went and met him. I've never seen anybody treat my dad. And keep in mind now that my dad was promoted only to the 8th grade. But he says that if you add up all the days that he went to school, it'll come up to about 3 weeks. But this man treated my dad with more respect than anybody that I've ever seen. And we've had that relationship with his family. And, you know, in this community, people like Jack Levine, Lowell Greenbaum is a good friend. So that I'm not anti-Jew, but I'm saying that we see these people in a different perspective than most white people do. And certainly a person like Jeremiah Wright, who is revered in the black community, he's thought of as one of the top ministers in the nation. Essence magazine and I think that Ebony have both historically ranked him in the top 10 nationally. The media, again, has taken snippets and painted a picture of this man. Now, certainly, I don't agree necessarily with all of the things that he says, but this is a man to be admired. And certainly, I don't disassociate myself from him, and I hope ministers who know him will stand up and make America see who Jeremiah Wright really is. But my larger thing is that if we trust nobody else, we ought to trust Otis Moss III.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a commercial break. We'll be right back.
You need your computer repaired or your office network maintained? Call the certified experts at 4Ts Computers. They have the largest staff of certified technicians in the CSRA, with hundreds of computers repaired monthly and multiple maintenance contracts with small businesses and organizations. All work is guaranteed, and our motto is do it right the first time. We have the largest selection of refurbished computers in the area. 4Ts has 2 locations to serve you, 592 Bobby Jones Expressway across from Home Depot and Windsor Plaza next to the post office on Peach Orchard Road. For quick and friendly service, come to Quickway Florists. Call our professional staff to inquire about beautiful fresh cut arrangements, seasonal bouquets, centerpieces, and more. Let us help customize your funeral designs. Or stop by and purchase one of our pre-arranged bouquets. For all of your floral needs, call Quickway Florists, flowers for all occasions, located at 1335 Druid Park Avenue in Augusta. Quickway Florists.
Welcome back. You're watching Comcast Community Concerns. I'm your host, Ben Hasan. My guest once again is Dr. Mallory Millender. Dr. Millender, this is for me personally, looking at the speech I opportunity to witness the other when he was first making it as opposed to a rerun or something. For whatever reason, that means more to you when you see it like that. And in terms of denouncing the pastor, from all that I've read, and as you know, I have it here. I have 10 pages here where I've downloaded and read it extensive. I have on my computer at home where I have the actual speech itself, where he's actually doing it in a capture, like a YouTube type scenario. And I've seen about a page, or a little more, of where saying that where he didn't agree, making the point in terms of his pastor saying things that he thought were detrimental for the betterment of this country. And bigger than that, he made a statement that he was at the last statement in this lecture. He said the greatest mistake that he thinks his pastor has made is that to talk about this as though there has not been any progress. And he said him being here running here as a president is a testament that that's just not so. Here's my point in saying what I'm saying. That I don't think he's done what people have asked of him and what he felt was the right thing to do. Because you don't denounce people, you denounce their actions. And the actions, the things that he had problem with, he has done that. Reason being, why you don't denounce people, this is my humble opinion, because if I denounce you as a person, what if you change? I have not left in the room because I have built a relationship. But if I denounce what you just did, and then if there's some correction in your life, then we all right again. You don't denounce people, you denounce people's actions. So people don't understand in a greater good, if they look at this speech, and I would encourage everybody, it's not advocating Barack Obama, it's not, look at what he has said. I think Barack has done now, and what the pundits are attempting to cover up right now, Barack has elevated his stature. In my mind, that it is bigger than the presidential. It's bigger than being the president now. He has put a challenge on the table to challenge America, to take a good look at itself.
I absolutely agree with that challenge. And America will do itself a disservice.
A disservice.
If it does not act.
You got 2 minutes.
On his challenge. Barack didn't decide that this is something I wanted to do in terms of that speech. He had to respond to all of the media pressure that was coming at him in terms of his pastor. I'm not sure that I totally agree with you that you should never denounce people. I certainly agree that you should continue to love them in spite of what they do. I think that there are some people, well, let me just...
Will they change?
Yeah, well, that's fine, that's fine.
Okay, go
you
ahead.
acknowledge that. You don't abandon them, you continue to love them and try to move them where you would like to see them go, but that's not really the point.
Right.
The point is the opportunity that this country cannot continue to miss. What he was talking about in terms of that anger, why should not we be angry? I mean, the things that he talked about, most of those things are factual. You know, you talk about things like the AIDS virus. It's on record what the government did in Tuskegee for 40 years using black people as guinea pigs to study syphilis. Bill Clinton apologized on behalf of the American government for what we did, and it never decided that it was doing wrong. What they were doing got leaked to the press. That's why they stopped it in 1972. I mean, but they did this from 1932 to 1972.
We got 45 seconds here.
Okay. You know, you talk about state terror. That's a perception as what is terror. You know, I mean, if you just look at shock and awe, you look at the people, the civilians, the children who were killed and maimed. You don't think that they saw shock and awe as terror? You look at the FBI and what J. Edgar Hoover did to Martin Luther King. He bribed him and tried to get him to commit suicide. This was our government.
That's right.
We aren't supposed to be angry about that. We aren't supposed to say anything about that. I mean, it has come to the point that if you stand up and express how you feel, then you have to be marginalized. You have to be a radical. You have to be something to be put in a corner, and people have to denounce and separate themselves. No. I made myself a promise a long time ago. If white people only hear the truth one time in their life, they're going to hear it from me. And I don't care what
But
people...
black folks as well?
Black folk as well.
Okay.
Black folks as well. But my point was that in the presence of white people, because of what I just said, black people will often say things that they don't mean or not say what they mean or say it in a different way. I'm saying that we have to teach. We have to do it in love, but we have to make them understand and be willing to understand their point of view as well.
Well, Dr. Millender, it has definitely been a privilege and a pleasure to have you here. I think the nation is going to be much better in terms of looking at this speech. I would encourage every family, every household to actually look at this speech. And I ask you, I'm not advocating Barack for president, even though he did get my vote, but personally what I'm advocating is to look at the speech and accept the challenge. This challenge here is bigger than Barack Obama, even for president, in my mind. You have been watching Comcast Community Concerns, where we always moving our community into the future, and have a blessed day. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
watching Augusta's very own Comcast.
Next time on Nature, the Antarctic, ice, snow, and...
We are PBS.
The E is for educational. Educate yourself about digital television at myetv.org/DTV. About.com says ETV site is especially helpful for older adults who may not be comfortable with the technology. Digital TV 101, now online at myetv.org/DTV.
Jim Stavrakakis had 2 childhood hobbies.
Photography and model airplanes. I'd hang them from one little thread and then take pictures of them with palm trees that make it look like the South Pacific.
His passion as a kid became his job in the Air Force.
My job was aerial photography. I'd go up on combat flights. And being over there in Korea really opened my eyes. America is not the only place. There's a lot of different religions, different habits, different thoughts. We're not all the same. I've always had a curiosity, and sticking my neck out to learn just a little bit more. And I think public TV, it answers your curiosity of life. It's always something different and new. And I think you've got to give back a little bit.
That's why Jim included his public television station in his will. Consider joining the community of people who want public television to span generations.
Next time on Austin City Limits, rock music you can dance to. Franz Ferdinand. And from Austin, what made Milwaukee famous?
Saturday at 11 on ETV.
Next time on The War, a forgotten island called Peleliu.
The world was a nightmare of flashes, violent explosions, snapping bullets.
And a pointless battle comes at a terrible price.
We just went crazy. We were mad at everybody and were ready to kill anything that there was.
Part 5 of The War.
Sunday at 3:30 on ETV.
Next time on Nature, the Antarctic, ice, wind, snow, and penguins. Emperors, kings, adelies, chin straps. In some of the most extreme weather on Earth, how do these South Pole creatures survive? And as the climate changes, what does their future hold?
Sunday at 8 on ETV.
Auschwitz was a secret death factory until 2 brave prisoners broke out to tell the world. Escape from Auschwitz on Secrets of the Dead.
This is ETV, supported by donations from viewers like you.
This week on Bill Moyer's Journal.
We've heard what everyone has been saying about Barack Obama's pastor. Now let's hear from him in his own words. The Reverend Jeremiah Wright in his first interview since the controversy. Stay tuned.
Funding for Bill Moyer's Journal is provided by the Partridge Foundation, a John and Polly Guth charitable fund. Park Foundation, dedicated to heightening public awareness of critical issues. The Kohlberg Foundation, the Herb Alpert Foundation, Marilyn and Bob Clements and the Clements Foundation, Bernard and Audrey Rappaport and the Bernard and Audrey Rappaport Foundation, the Fetzer Institute, the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, the Orfala Family Foundation, the Public Welfare Foundation, and by our sole corporate sponsor, Mutual of America, providing retirement plan products and services to employers and individuals since 1945. Mutual of America, your retirement company.